Exploitability is the third factor. To assess exploitability, you have to answer the question, how easy is it to conduct the attack? As it was the case with reproducibility, if the attack requires expert knowledge or lots of money, we estimate the risk at 0. If the attack can be conducted by an average trained attacker, the risk value would be 5. If the attack was fully automatic, we would estimate its risk at 10. The fourth factor concerns affected users. This issue is very often ignored. IT specialists usually work in small teams where everyone is well acquainted with new technologies. Working in such an environment makes it hard to imagine the consequences of a situation in which a small malfunction affects 500 or 1,000 users at the same time. Let's imagine that the attacker tried to defeat passwords of 1,000 users through an algorithm that automatically tries out well-known phrases. Multiple unsuccessful attempts will block the user's accounts. Such a simple, large-scale attack creates a huge problem for the whole department or for the whole company. As before, we should assign the fourth factor a certain value. 0 if the attack affected a small group of users, 5 if it affected one department, 10 if a considerable group of users of a system were affected. The discoverability factor allows us to assess how hard it is to say with certainty that the system has been compromised. Some viruses and noisy port scanning methods are easily discovered. Every administrator could detect them while reviewing event logs, or when users point out a specific problem, such as a system slowdown. The discoverability of such an attack would be assigned the value of 0. It should be given a 5 if the attack requires additional operations to be discovered. Such operations may include reviewing the cycle of operations of a user or the attacker. If the attack doesn't get discovered at all, or it requires specialist tools to do so, the risk would be assigned the value of 10. In practice, assessing a threat using the DREAD model allows us to create a table similar to the one you can see in the slide. We add the values we assign to the individual risk factors for every kind of threat from the list we prepared in previous modules. The list was created on the basis of analysis of system resource, system access points, and the possibility of resource loss. We divide the sums by 5, and in our case, the results we get are 8, 5, and 7. On the basis of these numbers, we assign each threat a different priority level. One of the threats to our computer system comes from the SQL injection, which could give the attacker access to confidential information in the database. It's a frequent attack, and many applications are susceptible to it. In our simulation, using the DREAD model, I assign this threat the highest level of risk and priority. Such an attack would be characterized by high exploitability. Reproducibility is also considerable, because in order to prevent the attack in the future, you would have to modify the application, which administrators can't do. A firewall doesn't provide much protection against the attack. The number of the affected users is considerable. Because this is an application layer attack, far above the level our security solutions pertain to, its discoverability is low. We assign to the threat the highest level of risk and give it a corresponding priority. The threat from an attack that consists of hijacking the HTTPS session between a browser and the web server was assessed as low. This is a hypothetical situation that should be easily discovered. You can detect it by checking the validity of the certificate of the web server. The only high-risk factor for this threat is reproducibility. If somebody has found a vulnerability that makes the attack possible, it won't be difficult to repeat it. The DREAD model helps us to assess threat risk. It entails susceptibility to attacks. The point is not to avoid risk, but to manage it.